Muted chat. Welcome to another Healthy Gamer GG stream. My name is Alok Kanoja. Just a reminder that although I'm a psychiatrist, nothing we discuss on stream today is intended to be taken as medical advice. Everything is for educational or entertainment purposes only. If y'all have a concern or question, please go see a licensed medical professional. Welcome, y'all. So today is super cool. We've got a viewer interview. So we're going to do an in-depth interview with someone who has difficulty being authentic. We will dive right into that in a second. But yeah, how y'all doing? Seiko5 is saying, I'm doing one-on-one coaching. It's much better than group so far. Thank you for letting us know. We appreciate the feedback. Yeah. So yeah, it's mental health time. Are we going to have another community event soon? Sort of. So I don't know if y'all know this, but we do a lot of like internal data analysis about the impact of our various interventions. So when you say interventions, what does that mean? So we even do studies on people who watch, I mean, not studies, but we've got 6 IRB approved studies that we're running right now. And one of the ones that we're actually putting together is outcomes on even like watching content. So if you watch and YouTube is super cool about this, like we're kind of collaborating with them about trying to figure out, can you watch content and actually like, can it statistically improve your mental health? So we're working on that kind of stuff. Any plans for more guides? Yes, there are plans for more guides. The challenge with more guides is that they just take a long time. So just to give you all a sense of the workload involved, basically each guide that we write is essentially scripted out to be the length of a nonfiction book. So our first 2 guides are close to that. So our first 2 guides were about 150,000 words of scripts, which is about 2 nonfiction books. And then our most recent guide was larger than any individual guide. It was about 100,000 words, something like that. And so the guides are super in depth. So if people are like we really cover like, not everything, but we cover a substantial amount of stuff. And the way that I sort of think about a guide is when someone comes into my office and I work with them individually, how do I understand what's going on with this person? And we try to walk y'all through that process as well. So in the case of like, why did we combine ADHD and motivation? It's because a lot of people who come in will come in with problems like, I can't get my mind, this is not what they say, but this is in actuality what it is. I can't get my mind to listen to me. So I want to be productive, but I can't be productive. And so how do we understand that person? Could they have ADHD? And are there things that you need to understand about ADHD? Absolutely. But on the flip side, if you look at it globally, our attention span is getting worse. And so how can you, in the digital age, understand your mind and what technology is doing to it so that you can optimize it for the purpose of like being productive? That's why we have a ton of stuff in there about focus and productivity and things like that. And that's all the stuff that I also teach to my patients with ADHD. But there are a lot of people who don't actually have that diagnosis who benefit from that stuff as well. So we hope to do more guides this year, but they're pretty big lifts. And yeah, and so you know, it's a lot. So we filmed one guide last year, and that was basically like I wrote a book in that amount of time. Yeah. So that's you know, it was, but we definitely want to do it. So the other reason that we want to do it is we're seeing good outcomes. So in terms of like community events and guides, for example, like what actually helps people more. And this is where if you look at participation in our community events, it's pretty high and there's some good outcomes there, but we're trying to figure out, okay, when we do a community event, it's cool to get people like engaged and stuff, but what can we actually do for people who either can't afford coaching or don't want to do coaching or whatever, right? Because there's like those people too. And about 99% of the stuff that we do is for free. And we recognize that a lot of people can't afford stuff, especially in this economy. But we really try to think about, you know, how can we help people? And I think we've got hopefully 2 guides that I would like to work on this year, but not for a while. Yeah. Okay, so today we've got an interview, so let's go ahead and hop in. Any other questions before we've got something cool coming out from a community standpoint that is also outcomes oriented. Can you donate to help someone else get into coaching? Sort of. Let me look into that further and get back to y'all. So I don't know if y'all have noticed, but we just want to make sure that our donations are used in the right way. So like, I don't know if y'all noticed, but we haven't had like a donation bar or anything like that recently because we just want to be super, super appropriate about making sure that if someone wants to donate, that money goes to where that person wants to send it. And that requires a lot of infrastructure, actually. So one thing that you can do right now is gift a guide. So that was a feature that a lot of people asked for, actually, which is cool, right? So it's not just that people want to buy the guides themselves. They're like, hey, how can I gift this to someone? Yeah, so we do have a subsidy fund. And the problem is that it tends to get eaten up quite a bit. So I want to say that we've done thousands of coaching sessions that have been subsidized. I may be wrong on the number, but we absolutely have a subsidy fund, and it just gets chewed through because a lot of people in our community can't afford stuff. Yeah. I mean, for what it's worth, if you guys, like, and the subsidy fund. So look, anytime we build stuff, it costs something. And anytime y'all give us money, it helps us build stuff. So in whatever form. So even if like you're on the fence about coaching or something like that and you want to donate, I'd say just like do coaching yourself or get a guide yourself. The money that we make from guides helps us make additional guides, right? And then we'll also do like some kinds of like structural upgrades. So people have been saying like, oh, the camera looks really nice. And it's like, yeah, like thank you for that, chat, because we owe you for that because people have been donating or tipping or whatever, subscribing, like whatever y'all do, even if it's a Twitch Prime sub, all of it helps. And the more that y'all give us, the more that we're going to turn around and build things for y'all. So we've got some cool stuff. It's not coming out anytime soon. I mean, some stuff will be somewhat soon. So hopefully we'll have something ready by May. But then there's a big project that I just started working on over the last couple of weeks, which I think is big, but will probably take like a year to get off the ground. And so I'm very grateful to everyone who's given us stuff, because this is the kind of thing that it would be impossible to do without a lot of support. So thank you very much, everybody. Okay, let's hop into our interview. We actually just filmed a guide for your mom. No joke. And your dad. We filmed a guide 2 weeks ago for your parents. Yeah, really. I'm not kidding. Okay, let me see. Oh. Hello. Let me unmute you. Thank you very much for coming today. And let me fix this so that you can see me too. There we go. Okay, now I have to try to figure out. You got to bear with me. I'm a little bit of a boomer.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine.
There we go.
I can wait.
Okay, perfect. Let's get started. What's up, man?
What's up?
It's good to see you, bro.
Thank you. It's good to see you too.
And what do you go by?
Please call me Miguel.
Okay. It's nice to meet you, Miguel.
Thank you. Weird question. How may I call you?
You can call me Alok or Dr. K. Whatever feels more comfortable to you.
Okay. Do you mind calling you Alok?
Not at all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you can absolutely call me Alok. So if you need help with the pronunciation, it's not all maple, it's all oak.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Okay,
Alok. Yeah, Alok.
So let's have a conversation between Miguel and Alok.
Yes.
What are we talking about today, Miguel?
So, I know this question has to be asked, but I've still have been thinking a lot about it beforehand before we have this conversation, because I've kind of dreaded that question. What am I here for? Because what am I here for? Because I just did a Reddit post that a mod found interesting, and I was talking about some not being authentic and having a mask on all the time.
Sure.
So I guess that's why I'm here. But actually, for me, it's more about having, like you said, a genuine conversation, because I just think that I've been lacking some genuineness in my life for past few times. Yeah.
Past few times means?
Yeah, well, actually, no, that's just bad English from my side. The past few years, maybe.
Okay.
Well, let's just say that, yeah.
So when you say, what are you here for, you mean, why are you here on stream, or why are you here on this earth?
Why I'm here on stream, that's basically that.
That's a great question. So let's start with that.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure if my topic was that interesting, actually. Because when I watch your streams or watch your videos, you always have so many amazing people and people I really find interesting to tell their stories, and I'm not really sure if I can live up to that, if I can offer something like that too.
Yeah, so let me try to address that. So the first is why do we invite people to come on stream? We invite people to come on stream for them to share their experience, and oftentimes it revolves around some kind of challenge that they face. And we actually focus on things that are not like mental health diagnoses. So I think a big problem that we face in society today is that the things that we struggle with are not necessarily mental illness. You can have a mental struggle that is not an illness. So how do I be authentic is a good example. And we also try to pick people that are like insightful and are struggling with something that we think other people could benefit from hearing about.
Okay.
And so what we're here to do is just, honestly, it's to learn from you about what it's like to have difficulty being authentic. And we try to pick people who we think can teach us something.
Okay. Okay, sure. Yeah, I just feel I don't feel that confident about, like me teaching anything and or like just telling about myself and that bringing value to others. That's like something.
I can understand that
Mhm.
skepticism. So, what do you think it takes to teach someone about something?
I think it takes skill and experience
Sure.
and um, also an interest to teach, of course,
Sure.
and the willingness for that.
Okay. So, it takes interest, experience, and skill. So, let's start with this, Miguel. What do you. So, I understand you asked me a question, why are you here? Fair enough. So, let me ask you, why are you here?
Oh, like I said, because I just wanted to have a genuine conversation with
Great.
someone I really find really interesting or someone I
Perfect.
admire, or at least the work I admire.
Okay.
And I just wanted to use that opportunity, I guess. And
Perfect.
yeah, it's
And
simple as that.
yeah, so it sounds like you're interested in being here.
Yes, I am definitely.
And how
My
much do you
goodness.
know? How much experience do you have being inauthentic and wearing a mask?
How much experience I have? Well, um, I th I'm not sure if it can be quantified or measured how long or how much
Yeah.
experience I have with that.
How many
So
years have
it's
you been wearing a mask?
um um I just don't know if it is even a mask anymore because first of all, I maybe just started very early on, from my childhood, uh trying to please my parents and just be, a good kid and being praised for that, just and then I thought it would be a mask because sometimes it conflicted with I got into conflict with some of the thoughts I had or some of the feelings I felt, which I chose to suppress due to the you know mask being more praised than I thought my actual face would be.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit? Can you give us an example of that where you were told to do something and you kind of if something comes to mind?
Um, you know, I used to go to church a lot as a teenager and as a kid. My family's quite religious, and I was an altar boy. I was growing up in a Catholic church, and someday they asked me to read something out of the Bible in front of the whole community. It was quite the honor, I guess. Um, and I read it in a way that was very like convincing to other people, and I got a lot of praise for that. Saying, "Oh my God, you can read so well. You must be a real believer in Jesus and whatever." And I just felt really horrible after that. Like it's because that was a point where I knew it was not the praise I got was just not earned because I was not the person people thought I was at that time or saw me as like a devout believer because I had a lot of doubts about my Christian faith, and I also ended up dropping out, getting out of church and a more atheistic, or at least not a non-believer.
And do you
So
do you remember what it was like when they asked you to read, what you how you felt and what your reaction was?
I felt that I should be honored to do that because normally a mere altar boy would not do that. Maybe they do, I don't know, but they want to rely on me, and I like to be relied on. So I just wanted to, yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you mean by like to be relied on?
So being relied on is something that results, for at least for me, feeling of justifying my existence, basically. So when somebody relies on me, it's I can assume that whatever they rely, you know, um, it gives me the feeling that I have some value to offer to someone else when they rely on me.
And do you have anything that kind of comes to mind? How did you learn that your value? Are there particular stories that come to mind about, here was a time where I felt really valuable because I stepped up and people could rely on me?
Mm, yeah, sure. Um, yeah. When I was in the mental hospital, there was someone who actually like had an outburst. Like he was really raging and he was attacking someone else. And I was waiting for someone else to, from the staff to hold him down, but he was like a really big and heavy and strong dude. So, and most of the staff were like very small women and who are not that strong. So I decided to like hold him down without hurting him. And I wasn't sure about how to feel about that at the time, but I like got a lot of praise after that, I guess, and it felt quite good to be relied on in such a manner
So,
in such a weird situation.
what feels good about it?
um, that I am actually not useless, or that I am, you know, I can actually do something, that I have some sort of power, or let's not, it's not really power. It's the I don't know. I don't like the ring to that word. It's
What
more about
what don't
it's
you
more
like
about
about what don't you
um
like about the ring to that word?
well, our when I used that word, seemed more of a seemed more selfish, I guess. And in that situation, it wasn't being selfish, I guess.
Sure.
It was more about me being, sticking up, and and maybe it is power, but I just don't have a better word. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't
So
like it.
let's
Yeah.
dive in, Miguel. By the way, how are you feeling right now? You doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I'm doing
Okay.
fine.
I think this is great. So let's try to understand something. So you said that power doesn't. You don't want to use the word power. So there's
Yeah. Not in that context, yes.
yeah. So I think there's two things to understand. One is what is the right word to use in this situation? Like is in which word is appropriate and which word feels acceptable to you. Do
Mm-hmm.
you get that those are two different things?
Yes, yes, I do.
Do you
I do.
think you were powerful in that moment?
Okay, so now when you explain it like that, yes, I believe so, yeah.
100%. Who could stop him?
Well, I don't know who could. I know I did.
And why did you stop him?
Because I actually liked that guy, and I knew if he actually landed a hit on someone else, he would have been thrown out.
Yeah. So
And
that's a good reason. The answer I was fishing for is because no one else could. And I think I could ask that question in 1,000 different ways and you would squirm and you would never say that.
maybe, probably, yeah.
Right? And what and so when we talk about how you're actually a powerful person, how does that feel?
Um, I'm not sure. I don't know. I can't put it into words.
So let's dig into that a little bit, if that's okay.
Okay.
Is it a good feeling or a bad feeling?
I'm actually a bit scared of
Yeah.
that thought. Yeah.
Yeah. What's scary about it?
Um. Uh. It's scary because it seems like something I like. It may be something that I just cannot control, and that being powerful may actually lead to me being hurtful to others.
Has that happened
And if
before?
yeah, it has. It has.
Do you feel comfortable sharing that?
Mm, I mean, it's not a really big story or anything. I just know that I used to do a lot of martial arts back in the day, or at least when I was, when I was 6 years old. I really yeah, I started to do martial arts, and I really liked doing it. And um, apparently, I was quite talented at that too, and I got ahead of others at my age in terms of skill. And sometimes when we had like sparring or mock battles, um, they couldn't keep up with me, so I had to hold back more. I didn't want to hurt them, though I did sometimes. And even in school, when we had like just I would say when we were just playing like superheroes and simulating fights or something like that, that it would get out of hand sometimes.
What does that mean?
Um, just a moment where I get a little excited and um get to actually hurt someone else. I remember one time where I was just holding someone by his neck, and he fell down for some reason, but was still strong enough to hold his neck, from the front, and didn't let go of him. So for a brief moment, it was like him being hanged by my arm. It wasn't really bad after that, but it was kind of a shocking moment because if there wasn't a floor under his feet and I would have been strong enough, I maybe could have, like, uh, hurt him a lot more than that.
So I'm hearing you kind of say that you're actually capable of a lot.
I don't know. I don't know if if that's what I said. But yeah, maybe, yeah, yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
hearing that you're afraid of that.
Um, sure, maybe, maybe.
If it doesn't feel right, then by all means.
Um, I don't know. I mean, because the word a lot is kind of very vague. Of
You're
course, I
right.
can do more than um not doing anything, but
So
uh yeah.
let me put it this way then. Maybe this will land a little bit better. There are times in your life where you've had to learn that if you don't hold back, it could be dangerous,
Yeah.
and you have to hold back a lot
Uh yeah. At that time,
at that
I
time.
yeah.
And what happens when you don't hold back?
Like I said, people may get hurt.
Okay. And when you do hold back, what happens?
They don't.
And so let's talk a little bit about how'd you become an altar boy?
And also boy. Um well, like I said, my family's quite was yeah, yeah, they're still quite devoted Christians, and I, grew up in a Catholic household, and you know, it's just natural for children who are going to church quite regularly to be offered this altar boy job, I
How,
guess. It's
how
just
many?
as our service, What did you say?
Sure.
Oh,
I was just
sorry.
curious. How many boys do you think went to your church?
Mm, maybe 10, 15,
And how many of them
something.
became altar boys?
Uh, 10?
Okay, so
Or
everyone,
less.
it was like
Yeah.
normal for everyone to become an altar boy?
It wasn't, well, let's say half of it or 5 people, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
Not
Okay.
not that many, but it was quite regular.
Okay. So it was like pretty
Um,
standard
yeah, it
for
was
people
quite
to
standard.
become altar boys. And why did you say yes?
Because that's what you do.
Okay.
I don't know. And I guess it was also kind of fun to hang out with a community of that time like-minded people.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually gets boring if you just sit back and just listen to some prayers or
Sure.
um, yeah, maybe doing something while being at church would be better.
And so can you share with us? So it sounds like you wear a mask a fair amount, a lot, all the time. You're not even
Yeah,
sure anymore.
I'm not even sure anyway. It feels like a lot, yeah, a lot of times, yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
So, wearing a mask, mm, well, I'm not sure if I can because oh, I said wearing a mask is like a metaphor to me just being not genuine in front of other people and just adapting myself to their needs and yeah, it's I'm not even sure if it's because it seems so radical to me because everybody has acts differently, I guess, in certain social situations. I mean, you act differently towards friends, and you act differently towards coworkers or clients at work or something. So, I guess putting a mask on is quite normal in
Yeah.
that sense. Um, but I felt like when you asked that question, it's really something like bad wearing a mask. Or actually, no, it's something I insinuated myself. Something I noticed myself actually when wearing a mask. Um, it feels very draining, and I'm not even sure. Yeah, no, I'm just rambling right now. I don't know where my thoughts have gone.
Yeah. So I think you're sharing a lot. What I'm getting is that it's not clear in your own mind, which is totally fine. So let's understand this. What's draining about how you behave on a day-to-day basis?
um, well, I have to. Yeah, so I really am not. I need to think a little bit about this because I have to be worried all the time in any situation or in any interaction I do or choose to do or choose not to do actually too. Um, and being worried all the time may result in me, being in a state of sort of paranoia maybe, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Always being afraid of doing something wrong or not doing something right, or not performing in a way that I should perform, maybe, or not meeting expectations, um, expectations of others, and then even also maybe myself.
Okay. So, did you have more to
No,
say?
please. No, 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 I don't. Not
So,
right now, at
so you
least.
said you have to be worried all the time. What are you worried about? Or did you kind of cover that, like expectations of other people?
Yeah, I kind of covered that.
Okay, great.
Expectations.
And
Yeah.
then, why do you have to be worried? What happens if you're not worried all the time?
I may do mistakes that I cannot reflect on to do it better the next time, maybe. So if I'm not worried about that, if I don't consciously think about it, it may be that I do mistakes without knowing to do them, or without knowing that I do them, and I might not improve if I
Okay.
don't reflect on it.
Okay. So it sounds like you're afraid that you could make a mistake and not even realize it.
Yeah.
And what would be the consequence of a mistake that you make? What are you worried about?
Um. Well, not getting the praise I want, maybe. Um. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
So that's kind of interesting. Because what I'm hearing you kind of say is that the mistake doesn't actually harm someone else. So what we're talking about is not living up to expectations and
uh,
not getting positive feedback or praise.
yeah, maybe. It's kind of weird. I mean, I'm not getting the praise because I'm doing a mistake that may harm other people, and due to that, I won't get praised. It's so weird to say it like that.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like a little boy's just saying all he wants is praise from other people, and I don't know. It doesn't feel honest actually. Right now.
What does feel honest
Saying
right
that.
now?
Um, I think that it may have started like that, wanting praise from others, but I think it has more assimilated into myself, expecting things I assume others expect of me, and
Sure.
that is more of a um, yeah.
So
I can't finish the thought.
that's okay. We're doing great. We're gonna pause for a second and tie it all together. And by the way, the reason that we had you come on today, or that we were glad you accepted our invitation, is because I think there are millions of people out there who live lives very similar to yours, and that things are
Okay.
tangled up on the inside and they don't actually know how to piece them together.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're not. And I think a lot of what you're sharing with us, I think, is actually like really, really like helpful and even fantastic in terms of elucidating the problem. So let me
Okay.
just ask you this. So I'm noticing something, and I'm not sure if I'm right here. I'm going to give you two options. One is sometimes I'll make a statement, or I'll draw a conclusion, or even I'll repeat back your own words, and you'll sort of like that doesn't land properly. Now, there are two
Mm-hmm.
reasons it could not land properly. One is that it's not actually accurate, which is probably true to some degree, has to be. The second is that your mind does not like the implication of the judgment. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you two examples. One is when we were talking about power, I think this
Yeah.
is a case where it was actually right that you are like literally you're powerful in that moment. Like you're able to do something physically that helps the people around you that other people can't do. That is an exertion of power. It's an exertion of power for a good reason,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, but something about that term like bothered you. The second
Mm-hmm.
place is you say, it makes me sound like a child who's seeking praise. Now, is that a
Okay.
situation where that's not actually what's going on, or there's a part of you that rejects wanting to be that, even if it's true?
Yeah, I guess no, that's yeah, no. It's probably just me not wanting to be that.
Okay. So do you want the praise of others?
Well, yeah. Um, yeah,
I think I
but
can help
it's
you with this confusion. So
mm-hmm.
I'm getting you're still confused. So now I'm going to ask you a weird question. What
Please.
happens when you get praised by others?
Um, feel maybe validation. I
Mm-hmm.
feel good about myself.
Do you feel other things?
Actually, nowadays when I get praised, I feel very conflicted because it's more because when other people praise me and I do not agree with their praise, I am very much I don't want to believe them.
Yep. So let me ask you, Miguel. Let's like step out of your shoes for a second. What do you think it's like to? And I'm going to generalize here, okay? But like, imagine there's someone who kind of goes through life like wanting other people's praise, and then when they get it, it sort of makes them feel good, but it also makes them feel bad. What do you think that person's experience of life is like?
I I wouldn't dare assume. I
Okay.
don't know.
It sounds really confusing to me that
Hmm.
like you're chasing after something, and even when you get it, like you kind of don't feel good.
Yeah,
Sounds like very bewildering.
kind of.
Is that what your
Like,
life is like?
sure. Yeah. No, yeah. The best example is, me having the opportunity to talk to you,
Uh huh.
actually, and me feeling weird about it, even
Sure.
though it actually made me quite happy,
Yep.
I guess.
And what are you worried about today?
Um,
What kind of expectation do you have to live up to, Miguel?
the other interesting people
Mm hmm.
that came up before here,
First
before me.
fucking words out of your
Yeah.
mouth, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I don't know why y'all picked me. You have interesting people all the time, but I'm not interesting.
Yeah. I agree.
How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling good still.
Okay.
Um, I like it when chaotic thoughts in my mind get in uh more in formation, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
More in order.
So if I tell you, Miguel, I think you're doing a great job, how does your
Thank you.
mind respond?
Um, thank you. Just a simple thank you. Just simple gratefulness
Is there
for
conflict
now.
or confusion?
Right now, no.
Weird, huh?
Yeah,
How do you understand
yeah.
that?
That it might have been a genuine feeling, genuine thought that I do not disagree with.
Yeah. So here's something. Can I think for a second?
Please, please do.
I'm gonna need like a solid minute, maybe. Okay.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. So this sounds kind of weird. Okay. I'm probably gonna need a minute to put this together because you've given us so much. So
Okay.
you came on here, right? And you came on. You're kind of confused why we picked you because you're not as interesting as the other people. And here's the other thing. I say, Miguel, I think I'm really grateful you're here. I think you're doing a great job. How clearly are you speaking?
I'm not speaking that clearly.
Yeah, you're not
so.
not really speaking clearly. And so are you living up to expectations?
No.
No. Weird, huh?
I'm not. No.
And so let's understand this formula. So when you live up to expectations and other people praise you, how do you feel?
Happy and weird.
Right? There's conflict. So
Yeah.
you feel validated, you're glad, but they're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
I've tricked
I
them.
think so. Mm.
And here you are. You're not even speaking clearly, bro.
Yeah.
And we're
I'm not used to speaking English.
and
Yeah.
I tell you, hey, I think you're doing great because honestly, I think you are doing great.
Okay.
And
I acknowledge that.
and why isn't there conflict if you're not even living up to expectations?
Maybe the conflict may come later when I'm in bed thinking about this conversation.
Oh,
again,
I'm sure that
reflecting.
your mind will find some way to beat you up later about this conversation. But this
Yes,
is what's
yes.
really bizarre, okay? When you live up to expectations, what people are validating is the version of yourself that you put out. So what we're grateful for, we don't want perfect Miguel. We want scuffed Miguel. Because scuffed Miguel is us.
Okay.
Right? So this is what's kind of weird is like you're sharing, here's my interpretation of it. This is just my understanding. Doesn't mean that it's right. But like it's so much more valuable to get praise, not even praise, but acceptance and positive feedback when you screw up, not when you do everything right. Because here's the core of the problem. When I do everything right and everyone says I'm awesome, what does that say about me as a person?
Well, it kind of insinuates that you are as good, that you are fine the way you are, even though you may think that that's true.
Well, so I would say that when we get the scuffed version and we say you're fine, thank you, right? That actually like feels good because we're sort of like accepting you. Whereas if you kind of think about it, if you perform well and people give you praise, they're not accepting you, they're accepting your performance.
Yes.
And that's why it feels conflicting because now it's like, well, hold on a second. If I ever stop performing, what are people going to think about me then? If you stop worrying about what people think, right? Because you said you worry all the time and it's exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
What would happen?
If they were to give me praise anyway, it may not have been on basis of me performing well, but just me being me.
And has that ever happened?
Maybe. I guess maybe. I don't know.
Okay, so that's kind of an interesting answer, right? So I've asked you, and I was surprised actually. So I've asked you to give us examples, and you've come up with stuff from like when you were 6. And that's kind of like an on-the-spot question, right? It's a hard question to answer. If you like, give me an example of something in your life, and you're like, so I've asked you for examples 3 or 4 times, but if I ask you, hey, has anyone ever like accepted you despite you doing a bad job? You're like, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's got to have happened at some point.
Mm-hmm.
That's the answer that I hear, which I agree with you, but I think it's telling that your answer is maybe, because I think if I ask you, Have you received praise for doing a good job and living up to expectations? What's your answer?
I did. Yeah.
100%. Right? So now the question becomes, when did you learn, and this is hard, okay? Do you know when you learned that you had to live up to expectations to get praise? Was there a time in your life when you like tried to be you and people were like, stop that?
I mean, sure, in school, of course. And it's so weird because when you were formulating that question, I had 100 examples in my mind, but I can't formulate one right now. Not because I want to hide anything or I'm uncomfortable sharing. It's more about me not knowing if that was actually the case.
So I think that's really helpful, Miguel. So I think it speaks to something that's really important. So when you say, I had 100 examples in my mind, what that tells me is that it's, let me think about how to explain this. So it, first of all, speaks to me of resonance. So like, it's like a yes and like a strong yes. But when sometimes when people say yes, that's absolutely true, and you can't come up with an example, that means it's so baked in that it's hard to pick one moment.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, like air smells neutral, even though we're smelling it all the time. But I can't really tell you what air smells like because it's such a constant. So interestingly enough, if something resonates deeply and you can't come up with an example, that's sort of like scary because it means that it was so constant that you can't, like, nothing even jumps out. So what our mind remembers is exceptions. The one time I fell in love. Oh my God, it was amazing. Right? So we remember exceptions. So I'm kind of curious, like, there's this whole other angle, which I think is really interesting, is like, you're afraid of being you.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much so, yeah.
Tell me about that, bro.
God damn it. Okay, so you see, I have been when I was a teenager, I got diagnosed with a mental illness. It's fine now. I got through to therapy. I'm healthy again, so
Good for you.
it's yeah. It had to do with, me being away from reality, I guess. It was psychosis. And thing is that I had these like thoughts about me becoming a really bad person in the future, or just being me. It's like imagine uh being in the Alps, having your vacation, you're drawing a picture in the early 20th century, and then someone from the future comes to you and says, you are going to become a mass murderer in the 1930s and 40s, and you're not going to become an artist. The creativity you have will be used for something else. The charisma you have will be used to manipulate others. And you'll have a weird beard, you know. Yeah, I'm talking about, like Hitler. And I had these I guess thoughts about that being me, just about something else. Okay, now that's not an issue I need to deal with today, but that's what has been bothering me in the past. And what resulted in that was, me trying to be as powerless as possible. I stopped doing martial arts. I was not training for a long time. my athletic body has been more deterring into, being a couch potato and gaining weight, not being able to hurt anybody, so, or at least not having the capability to hurt anybody anymore. I'm over that too. I'm already starting again to do
Awesome.
martial arts because I love that to do that, and that's not like an issue right now for me anymore. Even though I'm still at the very beginning, and I still have to uh, work hard on myself to get back to where I was back in the day, just with a better mindset and less worries, I guess. About me being powerful, like, equals me hurting others. So, um, but that was just something that has been. It was a part of me for a very significant part of my life, I guess. And although the illness has faded pretty much, the after effects of that have still remained. And I, yeah, for the normal stuff that is not covered in therapy, basically, just the normal day-to-day stuff, I'm not sure if I have recovered on that just yet.
What's an example of the normal day-to-day stuff that isn't covered in therapy?
Um, well, um, we're back to the air example. Breathing so much air that you can't smell it or know how to describe how it
Yeah.
smells, I guess.
So I'm hearing you say a lot isn't covered in
Yeah,
therapy.
like how, or yeah, something like how to go to a party and enjoy yourself, not having to worry that oh, you're taking medication, you can't drink any alcohol or anything else that yeah, in that direction, I guess.
Okay.
And just interacting with people about normal stuff. Um, there's just so much, I guess. It's not that we haven't covered that in therapy. I just didn't have the actual real practice while for that while being in therapy, because in therapy it's more like a simulation and not the real thing. And nowadays I'm always encountered with the real thing, and well, it
What
scares me. I'm not good at that. I, yeah. Sorry.
would you like to talk
Please.
about that a little bit?
About what exactly?
About encountering the real thing and what's scary and difficult about it?
Ash, sure. Can you formulate a more
Yeah,
precise question, maybe?
absolutely. I'm
Yes.
so let's just let me get, can I think for another second?
Please.
Okay, so one other question that I kind of have is that I may have already asked this, but are there times that you can remember where like you really wanted to do something, and
Yes.
if you ended up doing it, people were like not happy or it was not well received?
Mm. Mm.
Like, what's the
I'm not sure about
price
the
you
last part.
pay for being authentic?
Well, actually, yeah. Okay. Yes. I guess. Mm. The price I pay about for being authentic is that I show them, I show people that I'm not who I'm not who they think they are. I am. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they may think of it as weird of me, and reject me as a consequence.
And has that happened?
Yeah, sure, it has.
And are there particular rejections that have been painful that kind of jump to the top of your mind?
Um, yeah, it was one time where I told my parents that I felt sick, and them not being really educated in mental health stuff. Just me expressing my feelings and saying that I feel quite ill and sick and hurt, and them just saying, it's just need to be more happy, just need to have more faith in God. Um, you know, something like that. It just results in me not trusting them anymore for mental health related things, I guess. And the result, so the result is for me that I may end up losing people when I express myself in a genuine manner.
Yeah. I I think it's very kind and generous of you to say that the lack of trust that you have towards your parents relates to mental health issues.
Why do you think it's generous?
Because I think there's a deeper trust problem there than mental health.
How so?
It sounds to me like they just weren't listening.
I mean, they must have listened. I just don't. It was just not the response I wanted. But they still could have listened.
Okay. What do you mean by listened?
Just hearing what I had to say. I
Yeah.
mean, they took the time, for me to explain things. So,
So maybe
but yeah. Sorry, please.
no. I mean, maybe I'm off there. Very possible. So here's kind of so let me just try to summarize kind of what I have heard from you.
Mm-hmm.
So first, let's kind of start with where we are now. So it's important for you to live up to expectations. It's been important for you to live up to expectations for a while, right? So like when someone was like, "Hey, you should be altar boy," maybe you sort of did it not necessarily out of expectations, because we actually heard that there are a lot of like good reasons to be an altar boy. Like it's less boring. It's what other people do. It's sort of like socially acceptable, right? So maybe you weren't like, you didn't have a bunch of pressure or anything. I actually don't feel that you really
Mm-hmm.
had any of that. What I really feel, what sort of felt fake to me, was not that you became an altar boy, but they were like, "Hey, we want you to like read this thing, right, and talk to us about your faith and like be a good believer, Miguel." And you were like, "Okay," and so you went up there and you pretended to be a good believer. And when you pretended to be a good believer, everybody was very happy. They're like, "Oh, Miguel, you have so much faith," so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's something there where you started to learn that, okay, like, hold on a second. If I tell this priest who's asking me to read, a sermon or a liturgy or whatever, like, and I tell them, "Hey, I'm not so sure I believe in God," like, that's going to be a very different response, right? And you kind of learn a really important lesson, which is that people don't, I mean, if you want to make people happy, just pretend.
Yeah.
And I think there's like other layers to this, which is that there are times in your life where you've been authentic and it hasn't worked well. And in some cases, that means confiding to your parents about some of the struggles that you had, and they like they were listening and trying to understand as best as they could, but they were saying have more faith in God and whatnot. But then the other thing is that I'm hearing is that you've given it your all. You've been fully authentic when you were like 6, and you busted some asses in martial arts class, and that did not go well. Right? And I think somewhere along the way you've learned to be afraid of who you are, not just because of the expectations and disappointment of others. And this is where something around, what happened to you as a teenager may have something to do with that, where you learn to fear yourself. And then I think you've kind of gotten into this little cycle that's kind of like, can sound kind of confusing, but to me it's starting to make a lot of sense, which is, okay, first of all, I can't afford to be authentic because people could get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But then something weird starts to happen is as you start to make people happy and they validate you, the need to make people happy does not actually go away. So if we really think about satisfaction, when I'm hungry and I eat something, the hunger goes away.
Mm-hmm.
So when we think about healthy satisfaction, I'm not getting that from you. I'm hearing that when you make people happy, there's a part of you, there's conflict. There's something positive, but there's also something that feels like you need it again and you need more and it's not enough. There's something that they don't really know who I am, right? So I'm not getting that when you play pretend and someone validates you, you feel satisfied at the end of that.
Mm-hmm.
You may feel some amount of positive emotion, but it comes with negative emotion. And then sometimes what happens is we can start chasing more and more expectations. And the more expectations we chase, it doesn't lead to satisfaction. But then we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, because either you can chase people's expectations and they can validate you, which feels good and you need something, but you're kind of like, they don't really know the real me because you're playing pretend.
Yeah.
But then if you ever try to be the real you, what does your mind say?
When I'm the real me, I can't live up to the expectations set upon myself.
Right? And also the real you is dangerous. And
Dangerous.
So huh?
Dangerous, yeah.
Right? Because when I said it sounds like you're powerful, Miguel, what was your emotional reaction to that? Oh, there it was again.
I don't feel powerful anymore. So, actually, after therapy, during therapy, I realized that me being powerful isn't really the issue. It's more about if I can control myself, control the power I have. So,
Right.
I try to become more powerful again, like powerful, physically, but also intellectually, and try to stand up for myself in a more genuine way. But it's just that I sometimes don't know what it really means to be standing up for my genuine self.
So I hear that it's a work in progress. I'm also hearing that in some ways, I think we've heard today that you're moving in the right direction, but also the thought of being powerful, I got an instinctive reaction from you that it's scary.
Yeah, I remember that when I had a test, like some personality tests, and it measured, some traits of mine, and I think one of them was aggression, and like there's this spectrum from 1 to 100 or 0 to 100, I don't know, and like I was at the bottom 5% or something of aggression, so I was absolutely not aggressive at all, and the best outcome would have been 50 or something, I don't know. And I remember that I was really proud of that of that score, I guess, even though my therapist then was really worried that it was so low. I don't remember the exact test, but
What do you think you were
something like
proud
that.
about with being so low on the aggression score?
That I was furthest away from 100,
So
basically.
what I'm kind of hearing is that you were very reassured by not being someone who will exert their power.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of hearing that you're kind of working on reclaiming your power.
Sure. Yeah, I am.
And I'll sort of. What are you taking away from this conversation so far, Miguel?
Oh, I mean, it's a lot of to take in right now, a lot of to digest, and um, probably have to think about it later on.
Yeah, sure. I think that's.
Um, but for now, I think I don't really know. I can't formulate it right now. I
That's
don't know.
totally fine. I think
Yeah.
it's. I was just kind of curious where you are.
Hmm.
Not that I need some kind of summary, and I can't formulate it either. By the way.
Okay.
But I think so. Here's kind of my attempt. So I think that we've got like this core problem that people with a mask have,
Okay.
and that is that as you wear the mask, it's not satisfying, but it is like kind of validating. But every time someone reinforces the mask, like they're not really reinforcing who you are. So even
Yeah.
when you kind of screw up, quote unquote, you're not really screwing up, but you're not being perfectly formulated answers here on stream, and I say thank you for that. That doesn't come with the conflict,
Hmm.
right? And so the tricky thing there is I think you're being authentic with us and we are accepting you.
Yeah. I'm trying very hard right now
Yeah,
to
and
be authentic. Yeah.
I think we see that, right? And that's what's cool about it. Like I don't think that anyone watching this thinks you're fake. Like the more put together
Yeah.
you are, the faker you're going to be. And so
Maybe.
that's the tricky thing is that you think, okay, what do I expect? I want to be well put together. I want to have clear answers. I want to remember everything. I want to understand everything, right? And so like, but we accept you for who you are, however you got to where you are. And I see someone who's well along the journey of like putting their lives together. I think there are some things that linger. One is that I think you've internalized the expectations of others, and that also confuses you about who you are.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
like,
That was well formulated. I think I agree a lot with that.
yeah, I mean, you're the one who said that, by the way.
Oh, okay.
I know it's kind of confusing,
I
right?
yeah, I didn't use the word internalized, so I think it was more from you. I like that word.
Yeah, so I mean, that's what it is. Team game, okay? Much
Yeah.
like, is that Andor you have in the back?
Andor, yeah.
Yeah, team game,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just like Andor, it's a team game. And
Yeah.
and so that's what happened is like, so somewhere along the way, I think you started to realize if you be your authentic self, it hurts people. Sometimes, so that's one thing that you learned. A second thing that you learned, maybe that's like martial arts class. A second thing that you learned is if you try to be authentic with people, you can be rejected. So now we've
Yeah.
learned two reasons why it's scary to be authentic. Now, the third thing, which we've sniffed out a little bit but haven't really talked about, is your authentic self a good person or a bad person?
That's a lot. I don't know. That would be a lot to assume. I wouldn't dare to um categorize my
Okay.
authentic self as good or bad. I think it would be quite difficult to do that.
Is the answer neither, I don't know, or both?
Both.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that makes a lot of sense too. So there's not only that my authentic self can hurt people, there's not only my authentic self can reject people, but I don't entirely like my authentic self. So why would I be it to begin with? With
Yeah.
me?
Yeah, I am.
So then what happens is we put on a mask. And now the mask is really interesting Because once we put on a mask, we get a lot of positivity, we get a lot of validation, we get feedback from the external world about this person that we're becoming. And then we
Mm-hmm.
lean into the mask. Why? Because, by the way, our authentic self is rejected, is dangerous, and we don't even like it. So why would I strive to be this thing when I can be this other thing that everyone likes? Altar boy who convinces people to love Jesus. That's what we want to be. Right?
Yeah.
And so then the more that this goes on, the more confusing it becomes about who we are. We spend
Yes.
so much time like being this other person that we sort of lose sight of. And by the way, that loss of sight is like somewhat intentional, because if this person is messed up to begin with and hurts people and people don't accept them anyway, why would I want to figure this person out? The answer is simple. Just don't be that person. Be this other person. That's what everyone loves. We know who that person is. We know what an altar boy is. We know what someone who loves Jesus is. But there's a problem, which is that when we're that person, it's never satisfying. You get that validation, which is sort of like, a very surface level appreciation. But when you don't feel good in who you are, you become more dependent on the validation. The more you distrust your authentic self, you need the validation from outside because you're not getting it from in here. And so you become more dependent on it and you reinforce the mask, but it never becomes satisfied because they're never seeing the real you. So you never develop confidence in who you are. And this is how you get stuck. And we can see, by the way, the manifestations. If you want to know what do you really think about yourself, you need to look at the way that your mind reacts to statements about you.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of self-judgment in a lot of what you say.
Sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? So how do you judge yourself? Do you have a sense? It's a hard question to ask.
Mostly critically. Mostly not in my favor.
Yeah.
Very harshly.
And where is that judgment coming from? Is it coming from other people? Were you taught this, or is it coming from you?
Maybe it started with other people, but as you've said, I may have internalized these expectations to my own self now.
That is the
Which
right
is
answer.
which is why I actually get more responses like when I'm being more fake, that they actually reject me more, people nowadays. Because I have been trying to be less fake after therapy, but I'm not really used to being authentic, which is why I'm not comfortable with it. But I just haven't. I have stopped mastering the skill of fakeness, I guess. Which is why people smell my insecurity and fakeness from miles away. And that results, to me not being really able to have many genuine interactions or or praise I wanted to have when I was faking a lot when I was a kid and teen.
Okay, so now I'm curious about a lot of that stuff. So first question is, you said they're able to smell your insecurity from a mile away because you're being less fake.
Well, okay, I'm just assuming it. But I just observe how people react to me when they approach me in a genuine way and I do not respond in a genuine way.
And when you don't
And
respond in a genuine way, they reject you?
yes, because while I'm still kind of fake, I try not to lie that much anymore.
So can you give us
And
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I can give you an example. So, for example, at my job, my coworkers have been very welcoming to me, but I was just really scared of, working at that place, just working in general, because I've been a student before that, only went to college and haven't really started actual work since then. So I actually just put expectations on myself, having to always perform very well and not being worthy of interacting with other coworkers if I don't do my job well or if I don't prove myself beforehand. And in the first month, I actually felt like people were welcoming me and they were approaching me like in a friendly and genuine way, but I rejected them in a way that because I thought of myself, okay, I'm not ready to talk to you yet because I haven't proven myself yet. So like I'm not good enough yet for you, so please wait until I am, then we can something
And
like that.
that in your mind is a step towards authenticity?
No. No, it isn't. Um, because I I get crushed by my own expectations, which are kind of fake too. And now when I had the an actual opportunity to just be more genuine and to have also the response I want, the praise I want, I'll just keep using the word praise. um, I did not use it because I was standing in my own way, getting in my own way. Yeah. Um, or at least my expectations did. Then, so I've been experiencing more and more negative responses of me being not genuine. I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
For now, yeah,
I, I, I I think that's a whole complicated thing. So people approach you authentically and you reject them because you don't think you're good enough yet.
yeah,
And in a weird way, that sort of like could be authentic, right? Because that's how you really feel about yourself. And you're not like pretending to like yourself in that moment.
yeah, yeah. Maybe, sure.
But I think the real
Could be.
challenge that I hear there is that your mind is twisting and turning to make things your fault.
Yeah,
Which what I'm not hearing is, hey, this was, oh, well, I heard it a little bit at the beginning. Hey, like when people first go into a job, they don't, it takes some time to learn how to interact with people.
yeah,
But I'm not hearing, I heard that at the very beginning, but once we get into the self blame, it's sort of like you were expecting perfection from yourself,
yeah. Kind of, yeah,
right? So it's weird, but the self blame is sort of accurate, but is also, I don't know if this makes sense, a part of the larger complex of expecting perfection from yourself in the first place.
yeah, yeah. I can't really add anything to that. It seems so entangled and chaotic. I'm
It,
not sure, but it
it's
seems
yeah,
right.
it's a mess. But I think what's pretty cool about that is I think you're actually making progress with that here, which is that so here we want you to be imperfect. And we love you for being imperfect.
Love is a strong word.
Agreed.
Very strong word.
Did that word bother you?
Yes, it did. I don't really like people saying that so casually.
I apologize.
No, no, it didn't offend me. Like I know what you mean by that, but it's just it just makes me feel how should I say it? I don't uh like how can you assume that um I can't formulate anything anymore?
Yeah.
It's like I think it's just another word I react to quite negatively, like power and praise or something like that. We had
Yes. So
conversations.
what does
Oh, not
power,
conversation, but
praise, and love, what do they have in common?
they bother me, the words,
Yeah.
these
But
words.
what do they have in common?
Um,
What do they relate to?
That. Wait, I'm kind of lost here.
Okay, sorry. So
Sorry.
I'm noticing that. Thank you for sharing that. So I'm noticing that you really have problems with words that indicate your value, like some kind of
Okay,
like intrinsic value, not something that is performance based, but just an assessment of like who you are. And maybe I should be more careful. I actually thought about the word before I used it, and it felt right.
Okay.
And because I have a very strong appreciation. Maybe that's easier for you to handle. But I genuinely do feel a lot of love when I stream. Like that's like the
Okay.
best word, and I think that sometimes is confusing for people, and like we shouldn't feel love because we're streaming on the internet, and I've just met you for the first time. But the more that I actually pay attention to myself, and the more that I actually pay attention, and I encourage you to do the same, I think we have a lot more love within us than we allow ourselves to really feel, and we always water it down into other stuff.
Yeah, I think I just hold love in a very high regard, and something that is actually special to
Yep.
say to someone, or um, it's just a very strong expression,
Yeah,
which
and
should be earned actually. I
sure,
think
I
so.
completely agree.
So
And
yeah,
so, do you think that you haven't earned it?
yeah.
Do you think that
I think I haven't now.
yeah, so it's an expression of very high regard. I completely agree. What regard do you deserve?
I mean, appreciation was. I think that's. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Maybe for now.
baby
Yeah.
steps, right? And I think you use some very good language there. Appreciation, I'm okay with that. So this is the other really tricky thing that you got to be careful about is there's a big difference between what you're okay with and what you allow us to give you,
Okay.
right? So I know that sounds kind of weird, but like at work, people were trying, they wanted to give you a lot of authentic welcome, but you weren't okay with it. That says nothing, and you may not think you deserve it, but like they get to decide, right? They get to
Well,
decide what they think what you're worthy of.
well, they get to decide to offer that kind of welcome, and I get to decide if I accept it, I guess.
100%. But this is where like it's not they're not right and you're not right, right? This is where we have to reach some happy medium. And I recognize I use a word that may have been strong. It's just authentic with my experience, but I get that it puts people in a weird situation. I'll be more careful in the future. Yeah, I forget what we were talking about.
Me too. Um, yeah.
So
Sorry.
no, it's okay. I mean, I forgot too. It's not your fault. And I think it's great. Like, I think the reaction speaks a lot to, I guess, kind of what I was sort of talking about is like these internalized expectations. And just in terms of just the way that you think about yourself and the way that you feel about yourself. And somewhere along the way, I think some of these like more powerful, authentic feelings feel very scary or off to you. And what I'm concerned with is that, going forward, what I would encourage you to really think about is like, what do you really think about yourself? And where does those thoughts come from? And why is it that it's hard for you to own? Actually, because I think you're making a lot of good progress. I think if I asked you the question, are you lovable? I think there's a decent chance you'd say yes. No?
No.
Why not?
So, yeah, it's I kind of don't really like myself that much, and it feels like I myself am my worst enemy. And when someone allies with that enemy, in expressing they love that, I feel like they are hostile too. So people who say they love me are my enemy. Oh my god. So such a bad way to express it, but
I
it's
think
the
it's a
first
great
thing
way to
that came
express it.
in my mind. Yeah.
So, and now we have to be careful too, because if you can't accept people's love, how busted are you? Very busted. And how
Yeah.
does it feel to be busted?
Kind of normal for now.
Absolutely brilliant, Miguel. It feels right. And now everything becomes simple. Great job. If you're busted, why the fuck should you not wear a mask?
I wouldn't know.
Right? And so this is where I think you've got some work ahead of you. What do you think I think about you now? What do I think about you? What is your mind telling you?
He's so wrong. He'll know in a few years, in a few years time, after some work on himself. And that's what I think. Your thoughts, maybe. I don't know.
I don't think you're so wrong. I think you're actually quite amazing. I do think that you're going to figure more of this out. I do think you're going to change. But I don't think that you're so wrong. I think you're actually really right. That's why it makes sense. If you were wrong,
Okay.
we'd still be really confused. But I think you've made a very, very good argument for why your mind functions this way. I think your mind functions this way because it adapted. Distrusting yourself is a safety mechanism. Do you get that?
Wait, trusting myself is the
Distrusting
safety?
yourself.
Oh, distrusting. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So of course, like I think, I mean, even sort of thinking poorly about yourself, like if you think poorly about yourself, you're never going to let anyone love you. And if you never let anyone love you, what are you protecting them from?
Myself.
100%.
Yeah.
I think the really confusing thing in this, you're allowed to reject right now if you want to. And then you can go back later. And so here's the tricky thing. If you reject this now, you can go back later and even beat yourself up for rejecting it. And you can reject yourself again. And you can prove to yourself time and time again, oh, look, Miguel screwed up again. Miguel screwed up again. Miguel screwed up again. You see how you can do that? I can't stop that from you. And then you can even look at that and you can see, see how busted Miguel is. Because he always blames himself. You see what I mean? This goes on until infinity.
Yeah.
So I think you're a good dude. I think you're deserving of love. I think you're lovable. You may say, now your mind will say all kinds of other things, like how can Dr. K know that? I mean, I think we see an authentic version of you. I'm not saying you're perfect. I'm really happy and optimistic, actually, because you've started martial arts again.
Yeah, it's so hard. I'm
Yeah.
so bad at it right now.
Yeah. And that's what actually gives me a lot of hope for you. Is that you've been through therapy, you've somewhat healed. I think there's some scars left over. You're like putting your life together. You've got a job. But I mean, like, how many things can you expect to fix at one time? You expect to be socially perfect with your first job while you're trying to work on your confidence and doing martial arts again?
Yeah, I expect to be perfect.
Yeah.
The next second.
And so we're okay with you not being perfect this second or the next second or whatever. I don't expect you to be any better than you are today. In fact, I think you're actually an outlier of success and positivity. We're talking about teenage onset psychosis. Prognosis is bad, bro. But for the fact
that's what I've been told too.
Yeah.
But you see, I kind of pretended my way to becoming healthy again too. That's what I actually like to believe. Yeah, I've also been told that I would actually never really heal. There is always an underlying danger of me relapsing into an episode again, and that a lot of people like don't have good lives after that diagnosis. But I just kind of pretended to become healthy again. Make the placebo work, I guess. I don't know. Um, yeah,
Yeah, and that's what I think is like truly amazing.
that I that pretending is good after all.
Not that pretended. I don't care what you have to do, but the fact is you've progressed. That's a fact. You graduated from college. You
No,
got
I
a job.
didn't. No, no,
Oh,
no,
you
I
didn't?
didn't.
Okay,
No,
well,
no, no. I just went to college, but
okay.
I didn't graduate. No, I just decided to do a job.
Okay. So you chose to work, right? And it sounds like you're a fun dude. Like you've got some cool stuff in your background. Among Us,
Am I?
chess, board games.
Yeah.
It sounds like if you let people hang out with you, I mean, those are all team games too. You can't do those on your own. It's not a Rubik's Cube you've got back there.
It's not that I don't have any friends, actually. It's just that I noticed that me being authentic makes me unable to keep them for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually have some few friends I'm going to play D&D with this weekend. I'm excited about that. I used to have a lot of friends I used to play Andor with a few years back, and I don't know where they are right now. And it's probably going to be the same with my D&D friends in a few years. But for now, that's okay, I guess.
Yeah,
At least it's something.
I respect you for working on it. And I sort of hear it's so interesting because I hear a lot of progress and I hear that fatalistic part, right? It'll be that way in a couple of years. But that too, like, there are lots of reasons why a D&D group falls apart that have nothing to do with your value as a human being.
I
Because
mean, sure, yeah.
D&D groups fall apart all the time because people move on, people play different games, they get bored of D&D, which is a rarity, right? But like people get busy, people start dating, people start getting busier jobs, people start gaming in other ways. So I think going forward, just here's what if I can leave you with one thing, Miguel, it's don't give in to the discomfort of people accepting you. So do you get that? This is the hard thing, is when people accept you, how are you going to feel?
Yeah. Depends, but mostly weird.
Right? So just recognize that feeling as it arises. Like be prepared for it. Right? You may have even felt it partially today, but I mean, like just recognize that like it's going to feel weird like when people like try to accept me or think I'm worth something. And you don't have to give in to it. Which once again you have to be careful about, because if you do give in to it, then you can blame yourself, reinforce your low self-worth. Like you can always make it your fault and you can always have done better. Does that make sense? So you got to be super careful about that. And even if you give into it, that's okay too. Like you're not perfect because you've been giving into it for a long time. It's served you really well. It's protected other people. It's made your parents happy. It's made the priest happy. It's made all kinds of people happy. But you're a good dude. It's okay to be a good dude. You don't have to be scared of it. It's okay to be scared of it. So whatsoever you are is like okay.
Okay. I will reflect on that later.
How do you feel about meditating today?
Sure, I would try that. But I'd like to ask one question.
Sure.
Is
Good for you.
what I'm doing, or like pretending, is that inherently bad, or is everything I do like, you know, yeah, because I've been thinking about it uh since I mentioned that thing with healing more quickly through just pretending to become healthy again, basically. So I overcame. I assume that I overcame my illness by, just actually also believing in myself that I can become healthy just by thinking about being healthy again, pretending to be healthy. Um, I don't know. I'm not about to formulate this, but it seems that things that I've done until now, may have been kind of bad. I guess they kind of worked in some way, you know. So I tend when I solve a problem, I tend to dive into extremes. So when I say, okay, I'm going to stop pretending now, I'm going to be not fake anymore, I'm going to become more authentic, I tend to just go to the other extreme. And I'm worried that I may lose something valuable by not pretending anymore, whatever that value may be.
So it's a beautiful question. Let's start by understanding our terms. When you say, I can be healthy again, that's the thought in your head?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
For
What
that
makes you
time.
call that pretending?
Because I was not healthy at that time. No, absolutely not. I was
Sure.
quite ill.
So were
Yeah.
you saying to yourself, I am not ill? Or were you saying to yourself, I can be healthy again?
Well, I thought those were polar opposites, so I'm not sure. Saying I'm not ill or I'm healthy is there's a difference, maybe.
There's a huge difference. So I
Okay.
think one of the really confusing things is that, bro, you are confusing pretending with belief or faith.
Okay.
Those are like really big things. And if you call belief in yourself pretending, that explains a lot.
Okay. So, could you elaborate for me?
Yeah.
I'm not really sure if I
So
understand.
let's talk about psychosis for a second, okay? So sometimes, I work with people
Okay.
with psychosis, and sometimes they do not believe that they are psychotic,
Okay.
okay? So, and sometimes they pretend they're not psychotic. So pretending is acting in a way that is contrary to what exists in this moment. I do not think that is I do not think that is healthy. So I think pretending that a problem does not exist is not healthy. But I don't think what you did is pretending. It sounds to me like you believed you could get better when other people told you that it may not happen. And you worked towards a goal that may have been foolish, which is very different from denying. And I think that's the reason it worked. So it's very different from denying the present. There's a huge difference between you being sick today and believing that you can get better and believing you are better today and that you're not sick.
Okay.
So believing that you're fine when you're fucked up doesn't help. That's called denial. Doesn't fix problems. What you did is exactly what you should do and what everyone should do, is accept that you're not in a good space today and believe that just because you're screwed today does not mean you're screwed tomorrow. That you as a human being have the power to exert some change and control over your life. And this is where I think a lot of people are like, if I believe I can get better, is that the placebo? But placebo is real. Somewhere along the way, we started to think that psychology is not real. No, it's real. Like, it has statistically significant benefits. It doesn't mean that the mind is not fake, right? Like, the mind has all kinds of cascading effects on your immune system, on your brain, on your autonomic nervous system. Everything is like connected. So for you to believe that you can get better, I think you should continue doing that. I don't think it's pretending. I think it's acknowledging that, hey, things aren't perfect now and I can do better tomorrow. I believe in myself. And I think somewhere, like, I would call what you're doing not pretending. I would call it believing in yourself. Which maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you really are pretending. But pretending usually means that I am already better. I'm not truly sick. And I didn't hear you say that.
I didn't say it, no.
Did you believe that?
There were, you know, yeah, well, there were times, for the last few months of therapy there where I just thought, okay, yeah, I'm just here to be here, actually already fine, and, you know, just staying here for the ride.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know.
so I know it's wild, but sometimes people get better in therapy. And they actually can stop earlier than they do. Right? But like I think you did the right thing there, which is like make sure you're okay. Does that make sense? Like just because you
Yeah.
feel better in therapy doesn't mean you're tricking yourself towards the end of therapy. It means that it worked and you are better. That's the whole
Yeah,
point.
okay. Yeah, sure.
But there's so much doubt in your mind that like you can't even see like progress becomes pretending. You're not pretending, you're actually better. It's possible.
Okay.
It's the point. And you've put in a lot of effort, right? Sounds like you were on medication at some point, you were in a hospital at some point, you did therapy, you started doing martial arts again, you found a job, you're even working on social stuff. Did you screw up? Sure. Can you get better? What do you think, Miguel?
I
Now,
can.
huh?
I can.
Are you
I can
living
do
up to
that.
expectations or do you believe it?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, okay, good, right? See, we caught you out on your bullshit. Here you are at the end of an interview with Dr. K. Miguel, can you get better? And you're like, oh shit, this is the part where I say, yeah, I can get better. No,
Yeah.
we're not going to trick us. You've been way too authentic with us already. We're not going to fall for your bullshit. And I'm going to say that's okay. It's okay for you to doubt. I think it's really healthy. That's you being authentic. And I think that working through that doubt instead of pretending that it's not there. And if you say, hey, I can't get better, I'm screwed, I'm never going to have friends, my D&D group will disappear after 3 years. I can't see the future. I don't know that that's the case. But I think the only mistake that you're making is that when things fall apart around you, you don't blame anyone except for yourself. Like I mean, D&D groups fall apart. It's the natural history of D&D groups. The number of D&D groups that started when they were like, when people were like in the 70s, when people were playing D&D that are still around, they're very few. Lifespan's like a couple of years. So I think it's okay for you to not believe that you can get better. That's cool, man. We're still going to have faith in you. I still think you're going to get better. Because I think you're doing good, dude. Like, I think there's a lot of objective information that you've shared with us. I'm assuming it's objective. That you're working and you have a D&D group and you're starting to do martial arts again. And like you went through therapy. It sounds like you also recognize what the warning signs are and that if you need it again, you'll get it again. So those are all good things to me. How does that sound to you? No lying.
I actually feel like it's okay for now. But seems like may fall apart again without me noticing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's how it is. I think you are right. And the cool thing is, if you were aware it could fall apart without noticing, what does that do to the chances of it falling apart?
Can you repeat that again?
So you're worried that it could fall apart without noticing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you're worried about it falling apart, does that make it more likely for things to fall apart or less likely for things to fall apart?
Guess it doesn't have any influence on the probability.
Okay. I would hope that, or in my experience, people who understand that things could fall apart are actually less likely to fall apart because they're watching out for it. You're taking it seriously. Does that kind of make sense? I'm hearing that you're not in denial. And people who are in denial are the ones that cause it to fall apart. Like when I work with people with substance use disorders, they're like, yeah, this problem is fixed. I never have to worry about it again. Those are the people that relapse. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of the opposite of that. So I think I'm detecting a healthy amount of vigilance from you. And I think I understand why you think that won't help, which is reasonable. Because if you've experienced psychosis, you cannot always trust yourself. And so vigilance may be insufficient. Does that resonate?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. And I think it's okay. But anyway. Was that other questions? Sorry if I'm tossing a lot of
No, thank you for answering that. For taking your time for answering that.
I don't even know what answer I gave you. What was the answer that you heard?
That's okay, so my question was if there may be some genuine okay, first of all, pretending is not believing in yourself. So what I did was believe in myself, and which was more authentic, and I was not in denial due to that. But me being always aware of the danger of maybe relapsing or things falling apart again, it's actually a good sign. Yeah, I think I might have left something out.
No, I think you actually summarized what was a 10-minute answer into like 3 sentences, which is beautiful. Good job.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Probably later in my bed when I'm thinking about this conversation.
Good.
And I'm thinking, oh no, I could have asked that question. I had the opportunity. My goodness, why didn't I ask that question?
Brilliant. So you are beginning to see, right? That you're gonna beat yourself up later because that's what you do. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So as best as you can, accept that this is enough for today, dude. We've covered enough, bro. Right? And this is why we'll have someone else come on later who will ask the next set of questions. And like, that's how we work. So thank you very much for coming on, sharing your experience, sharing your story. How do you feel about coming on today?
I feel very grateful for you having me here.
Okay.
And having the opportunity to talk to you.
You're very welcome. You ready to play pretend again? Because I'm going to say something that's going to make you feel uncomfortable. You ready for it?
I'm ready.
I'm grateful for you, too. I'm grateful that you came on and shared your story, which has embarrassing components to it. You shared a lot of vulnerability. You didn't have everything figured out, and you kind of stumbled through some words and didn't know how to answer some questions. And I'm grateful for all of that. I'm grateful that we didn't get some kind of finished, perfect product. Because if that's what we got, that wouldn't help anyone. There are tons of influencers out there who pretend to be finished products and say, hey, look at how finished I am. Do what I do, and you can be finished too. This is what actually helps people. You are actually what helps people. Is because the experiences of people out there are confused. And in sharing your confusion, and even as we move forward a little bit, and this is what's really the real tragedy of stream, is that people who are watching are the ones who get helped the most. Because they can see it from the outside. Right? And the person who's on is always the one that's confused and stumbling for answers.
Really?
Yeah.
But even if that's the case, I might have been helped a lot before, watching other people talk to you.
I mean, I hope that you've been helped, and I hope you were helped today, but I'm grateful to you for being willing to come on and sharing this part of your life. That's how we work, is people like you come on and they help thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people. But that may be hard for you to accept, which is okay. Doesn't change the impact that you make. You can pretend that it doesn't help people. You can do that if that helps you feel better.
I think it's still more the impact you make. I don't know.
Sure. Is it more comfortable for you to think that I'm making more of an impact than you are?
Yes.
Okay, sure.
Yes.
Sure.
I think you're contributing way more than me. No. Uh, yeah.
Okay, that's okay. You're doing some, right?
I'm here.
Yeah. So that's enough.
Yeah. Okay.
How do you feel about meditating? Yay, nay? You
Yay.
don't have to.
No, yay. Yay.
Okay. I had a meditation. Let me just think of it. It slipped my mind. Oh, yeah. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. Okay. We're going to do. Okay. So we're going to do a pretty. Have you had any experience with meditation?
No, I
Okay.
always skipped to that part.
Cool. Totally fine. Most people do. So what I want to sort of share with you is essentially like a technique to help you practice tolerance of negative stuff. Okay? And the specific scenario that I'm envisioning is at some point someone is going to send you some kind of positive signal. It'll be appreciation, it'll be gratitude, it'll be respect, it'll be, who knows, maybe physical attraction one day, maybe love, like this is super scary stuff. And then your mind is going to react like negatively to that, right? So you're going to feel uncomfortable, you're going to beat yourself up in your head to kind of balance it out. All kinds of weird crap can happen. So I think what I'd love to share with you today is just a technique to help you practice sitting with discomfort. So what I want you to do is just pick a position, okay? So try to get somewhat comfortable and then just close your eyes.
Okay.
Okay?
Just
Now,
close my eyes, you say?
Yeah, just close your eyes and just breathe and just be. And what I want you to do is pay attention to any kind of signal of discomfort in your body or mind.
Okay.
Okay? So is there anything that you're able to feel?
Feeling quite comfortable right now.
Okay.
I don't know yet.
Okay. Okay. So if I'm asking you to find discomfort and you're not able to find discomfort, does that make you uncomfortable?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's a mental discomfort. And what's it like to sit with it?
I don't know. I think it's just it's stressing.
Yes.
I don't know. I feel a bit stressed.
Good.
Yeah.
That means you're doing it right, right? So there's all kinds of stuff. So just pause for a second. Okay. So notice that tendency. You want to keep shaking your head. You're feeling stressed out. Are you feeling stressed out?
Yeah, a little bit less, but yeah.
Beautiful. How's that happening?
I got more used to it, I think.
Okay. Now, if I ask you how's that happening, if you don't have a good answer, what happens?
Feel a little bit more stressed.
Good, right? So now what are we going to do with that stress? No shaking your head back and forth. Or go ahead and shake your head back and forth. Go ahead.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm going to do with that stress.
Good. You don't need to do anything with it. Just take it. Good. You're doing it right. What's happening now?
Starting to relax a bit more.
Good. So now if you want to, you're starting to relax. And now take a deep breath in. And out. Good. So in through the nose, out through the nose for 7 seconds. And then out for 7. Then in. Up to 7. And then out for 7. So notice how you feel right now. Can you feel stress? Okay.
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
So this is pretty cool. I want you to notice how you feel in this moment. Now we're going to stress you the fuck out.
Okay.
The person that you are right now, is this person lovable?
No.
Where does that lack, where does the unlovability come from? Look for it within yourself.
Just me not being good enough.
So where does that exist within you? Is it in your hands? It is in your arms? Is it in your face? Where is that?
I think it's between my fingers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I want you to just breathe. So notice that discomfort, that fear, and now we're going to return to 7 breaths. 7-second breaths, sorry. So breathe in. And out for 7, good. And then in for 7. And out for 7. And one more breath. How do you feel in this moment?
Peaceful.
Okay. So this is what I'm going to leave you with, Miguel. A
Okay.
7-second breath in and out. The next time you feel uncomfortable, you've got to understand one really, really important thing. When you feel uncomfortable, your mind is going to engage in behaviors to make the discomfort go away. So how do you handle the discomfort of people liking you at work? You tell them, don't talk to me right now. And you reject them. But what does that really do for you? It makes the discomfort go down. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
That's screwing you in the long run, right? Because you're not having social connections. So the next time you feel discomfort of any kind, and the key thing that you need to watch out for is not stuff, people saying bad stuff to you. Because your low self-esteem is probably eating that stuff, fork and spoon, shoveling it into your mouth. It's when people treat you with esteem. And you, poor thing, you're not even letting yourself take that. You have to push them away. And when you reject the esteem of others, how can you possibly feel good about yourself? So the next time someone feels good towards you, breathe in for 7 seconds and out for 7 seconds. You must do this thing. Just one breath.
Okay.
You don't have to close your eyes and do the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the wild thing. That piece is something that you can turn on and off like a switch. You don't have to engage in the behavior. You can literally turn it on and off like a switch.
I'll just have to remember it, or
yes,
just by doing the breathing.
And this is where, if you practice, it will be easier to remember and it will be more effective. If you don't practice, your chances of success are low. And then you can beat yourself up for not practicing when that happens. But as you beat yourself up, what should you do?
Breathe in for 7
Beautiful.
seconds. Breathe out for 7 seconds.
That's it.
And remember that piece.
So even if you fail, it's a win. Okay? Good luck to you, my friend.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Any last thoughts or questions before we wrap up for the day?
Maybe I just want to say that I'm really grateful for the work you do, and I've been watching you for years. I've always like fantasized about being one of the viewers you actually talk to. So, um, yeah, thank you for doing what you do, for helping others.
You're very welcome, and thank you for being a part of it. We couldn't do it without you, literally. So you're welcome, and good luck, dude.
Thank you.
Adios. Alrighty. So here's the thing. So there's a lot that we covered today. The one thing towards the end that I want y'all to take away, if we look at meditation, and even if we look at yoga, okay? Meditation is scientifically effective for all mental illnesses. I think I can say all. Most of the major ones. There are studies now in mood disorders, anxiety disorders, psychotic disorders, substance use disorders, addictive disorders, narcissism, personality disorders. So it works for just about everything. And this is weird. Why? Right? How is that possible? Because in the West, the way that we think about it is if you have a particular problem of the mind, there is a particular treatment for a particular pathology. If you've got a personality disorder, the treatments for a mood disorder will not work for you. It doesn't translate one-to-one. Why? Because it's different problems. So how is it that meditation works for them all? So all of these problems exist within the mind, right? It's what is the pathology within the mind? In what way is the mind busted? If it's busted in one way, you wind up with an anxiety disorder. If it's busted in another way, you wind up with a mood disorder. If it's busted in a third way, it's a personality disorder. But they are all pathologies of the mind. So the reason that meditation helps with all of them is because meditation transcends mind entirely. And this is why, as a psychiatrist, it's been so hard to find information on psychiatry in meditative literature. It doesn't exist. It does exist. It's just very rare. It's because they figured out how to move past mind entirely. You all get that? It's like, it doesn't matter. But once you move beyond mind, and we sort of saw this a little bit towards the end, where you can see the pattern of your mind. Towards the end, we saw with Miguel, hey, it doesn't matter what you do. Your mind is always going to find a way to fault you. Right? And this is the tricky thing is like, if you have low self-esteem, your mind will find some way to blame you no matter what. Because if someone tells you, hey, something will work, and you do it and it doesn't work, your low self-esteem is like, see, it works for normal people, but it doesn't work for you. And thus does even the treatment for low self-esteem become part of the problem that only reinforces your perceptions. Even solutions become problems. And even if you do make progress and you've got low self-esteem, what does the mind say? You could have done better. You should have done it sooner. Why did you wait this long? So it takes a win and it turns it into a loss. And then if you actually do a bad job or you get any kind of mistake or if you actually screw up at some point, then it's easy for the low self-esteem to be like, you see? This is what I've been telling you. So it twists and turns, and no matter what you do, it will find a way to blame you. So this is why, first of all, notice this. Notice that this thing called your mind is going to play a game with you that you can't win. And also that you don't have to play the game. And then what does the mind say? But you do play the game. You see, I screwed up. I don't have to play the game, but I end up playing the game anyway. If I was better at meditating, I would not have this problem. And there it is again. There's no way to win against this kind of complex. So all you can do is notice it. Say, there is my mind again, being unable to tolerate the idea that I did a good job. There is my mind again, being unable to tolerate that I'm actually making progress in life. And as you notice it, you can do this technique, which is just breathe for like 7 seconds in and 7 seconds out. And this is what people miss about a lot of meditation, is they're like, okay, so what is meditation? It's breathing in and out for 7 seconds. Meditation is so much more than that. It is recognizing when you feel these things and breathing then. It sort of doesn't matter what you can do. You can pay attention to your breath. You can do all kinds of stuff. The technique in that moment is not the important thing. The important thing is when you recognize what is going on and when you employ the technique. That is when the real therapeutic value kicks in. Because you will short circuit that thought process. As you short circuit that thought process, which will only lead to one place, then you lose that momentum in the mind. And as you lose that momentum again and again and again and again, something bizarre and magical will happen. Your mind will stop thinking that way because you have not fed it. When you short circuit the self-esteem thoughts, the negative self-esteem thoughts, enough times with meditation, they will start to wither away. Because how do thoughts grow in the mind? The stuff that we feed. And advertisers understand this. That's why they advertise. Because if we can stick thoughts in your mind, and we can stick enough of them, then we will dominate your mind and you will start thinking about it. And once you start thinking about it, then you will pull out your wallet. When you can't stop thinking about it, you will pull out your wallet, right? And game designers understand this really well. They're going to give out beta keys and early access to all the top streamers. Because when they do it, everyone is playing it. And when everyone is playing it, your mind is bombarded with these thoughts. And then it will control your actions. So how do you remove a thought from your mind, especially one as simple as self-esteem? This is the beautiful thing about yoga and meditation, is it doesn't matter what the thought is, the process of removal is still the same. Whether you're uprooting a peach tree or a weed, that may require more effort because one is more entrenched, because it's been watered and grown and the roots have become deeper. But it doesn't matter what the plant is, the process of removal is the same. I guess everyone's playing Diablo 4 nowadays. Right? So short circuit with this simple technique. And this is where people will ask, like, oh, what does this technique do? It doesn't do much unless you use it in the right way. And so what is meditation? It's not just mindlessly doing a technique, which is so silly, which is what most people do. There's some value to that too. But employ it at the right time. What if we never learn to meditate? Can we reach the effect in other ways? Sure. You can heal the mind without meditation. Just meditation works pretty well. Right? So we have all kinds of evidence-based treatments, especially if there's clinical stuff involved. There's psychotherapy. This is also where we employ, so you can have someone use this stuff on you. So some therapists are trained in this stuff, like our coaches are all taught Vedic psychology. So an understanding of how the mind functions and how it reacts to stuff, right? So when we do coaching, what we try to teach people is, okay, understand how your mind works and don't react to it in the same way that you normally do. And so when it comes to goal setting and accountability and actually accomplishing stuff, they use these principles of the mind. That's why we did it. Because I can't work with everyone, right? This poor guy's fantasized, oh my goodness, about being on an interview with Dr. K. Like Dr. K can only get to a certain number of people, right? So if you guys want some of this sort of methodology, that's why we built a coaching program. If you all also want to learn more about meditation, so you can absolutely check out our YouTube channel. And then we also have Dr. K's Guide to Meditation. So if y'all are interested in learning how the mind works, like there's a lot of good stuff in there, including discussions of things like psychosis. So what we really do is map out the spectrum of like different things in the mind. So what is the relationship between psychosis and the meditative state? Like we'll also talk about things like that. Generally speaking, a lot of stuff in the guide is really good for people who want more in-depth learning, but is the kind of stuff that like if we stuck on YouTube or streamed on Twitch, like half the people would leave. So it's really for people who want an in-depth understanding and really want to apply principles. Good. Nomadic Chubris is saying the YouTube channel has given me many good times. That's what it's there for. Good night, Kablooey04. What if you struggle to take deep breaths? That's why there are other alambanas or techniques, and we sort of explain this, where not everyone likes the breath. So I, for one, for example, like did not like doing breath meditation for the first like 5 to 10 years that I meditated. 5 years, let's say. And it's okay. So psychosis is in the meditation guide? Not really. So it's not like Dr. K. So that's where if you guys want clinical perspectives, that's in depression, anxiety, and ADHD. But we don't have a guide to psychosis. It's just, if we look at psychosis, that is a state of consciousness, just like waking, sleeping, dreaming, anxiety, emotions, the meditative state, samadhi, enlightenment, like that's all a continuum, and we kind of lay that out. So we don't go into a whole lot of detail about psychosis, but we explain, I explain how I understand how psychosis fits into all these other things, right? Because as a psychiatrist, I was like, wait, what's going on in the mind of someone who's psychotic? That's when their thoughts become realities. That's the nature of psychosis in a nutshell. It's when your thoughts become realities. Right? So that's when there's no separation between mind and the world. And then if we think a little bit about it, I can sort of explain this in a nutshell. When you think about anxiety, everyone can worry, but if someone has an anxiety disorder, what's the difference between someone who's worried and someone who has an anxiety disorder? The anxieties of the person who has an anxiety disorder are closer to reality than someone who just worries. Because the person with anxiety disorder believes that their thoughts are closer to reality. So we've moved one step closer to psychosis. Right? Because now I really know other people are telling me I don't need to worry about this, but I do need to worry about this. The 99 people that are telling me to calm down don't understand what the reality of the situation is. This is what happens in an anxiety disorder or a panic attack, where your thoughts and sensations become realities. And so then we get to normal worry, right? And then we get to the meditative state, where things can be true, yeah, but the situation is true, but I am not worried about it. And then we get to higher transcendent states of consciousness, where we start to recognize that, okay, what we are is more and more separate from the world. And then we finally reach like samadhi, which is a state of temporary enlightenment. It's hard to describe unless you experienced it. But then like all these things that used to worry you are no longer true. They're still true. They just stop worrying you because you recognize that this is all just a part of the world. That the world exists in this way. The world ain't perfect. And I ain't perfect. And people around me ain't perfect. So why would I expect perfection of the world? We stop getting caught up with stuff. It's like, I'm going to do the best that I can, but I can't guarantee that someone will love me or I'll get this job or anything like that. So I'm going to just put forth 100% effort. And if it doesn't happen, I did the best that I could. There's nothing more that I could have done. There's no reason being upset about it. Does that make sense? How long should I meditate daily? Generally speaking, about 20 minutes. But that's also explained in the guide if you guys want more detailed explanation around like scientific reasoning behind that. So can we meditate the psychosis away? I would say no. But there are studies that show that meditation is effective in psychotic disorders. I have used meditation as a clinician very effectively in people with psychosis. And there are also studies that show that meditation, if done incorrectly, can induce psychosis. So I would not use meditation as a treatment for active psychosis. I would use it as part of a treatment program for psychosis. I do not think it is a safe plan to try to meditate the psychosis away. How do we know that a meditation is working for us? How you feel is one answer. But then the second thing to remember is that sometimes even if meditation is doesn't feel good, it still could be working. And I'll just illustrate this with a really quick example, okay? So if my mind has difficulty focusing, so let's talk about a meditation for ADHD, for example. So if my mind has difficulty focusing, and what that means is that my mind wanders away. I'm trying to focus on the breath, but I keep on thinking about something else. And then over a 20-minute meditation, I don't enter any kind of state. I'm spending the whole time wrestling with my mind to bring it back to the nose. So it feels like the meditation is a failure. Not a failure at all. You're actually crushing it. Because what you are doing in that moment is literally strengthening your frontal lobes. So our mind has a muscle, the frontal lobes, that restrain our thoughts and bring them to where we want. And each time your mind wanders and you bring it back, that's essentially a push-up that your mind is doing. It's a push-up for your frontal lobes. So even if your mind is wandering a lot and you're bringing it back 10 times, 15 times, 30 times, 50 times, that's your mind doing 50 push-ups. And so literally you are entraining your ability to focus. Classic tech says brain gains 100%. And so if you look at something like ADHD, that's where there's a lot of specificity that gets lost in mindfulness. But when you're someone with ADHD, your mind isn't going to be able to focus and you're going to meditate. It's going to feel exhausting. It's just like when you start working out. It doesn't feel good to work out. It feels tiring and exhausting, which means that it's working. Right? And the harder you push, the more swole you're going to get. So I know there are people out there who will sell brain swole supplements, and maybe we'll join the market one day. But the real brain swole supplement, the real way to swole your brain is not through supplements. It's through meditation. This is making me motivated to meditate. That's why we talk about this. People don't understand what meditation really is. Everyone thinks they're doing it wrong. Even if you're doing it wrong, you're doing it right. What's a reasonable length of time it would take to get into meditating properly? So this is a huge problem as well. Once again, you guys should really watch the guide because we talk about all this. So here's a huge problem. So people will say, I've tried meditation, it doesn't work. And if we ask them, what do you mean you've tried meditation? Here's what happens. I went to a meditation class and I had a teacher. And the teacher taught me meditation, and they're certified. Hell, they're even a monk. They've spent 30 years meditating. They're experts in meditation. It doesn't work for me. I must be bad at meditating. So here's what I learned. You're not bad at meditating. You're just bad at meditating their way. And how many meditation teachers do you know, or classes have you been in, where someone said, actually, you know what? You have a unique cognitive fingerprint, and our method of meditation is not designed for your mind. You would be better suited doing this kind of meditation. This is like saying, okay, like, how long does it take for me to love spaghetti? And it's like, well, for some people, they love it right away. But some people can go to an Italian restaurant every single day and eat spaghetti every single day, and they'll never like it. So if you go into a restaurant, you eat spaghetti and you don't like it, should you try to acquire a taste for a few weeks? Sure. But you should also acknowledge that spaghetti ain't for everyone. And just like tastes are unique, Shocking, right? Because tastes are based on neurons and brains and stuff like that. Turns out meditation styles are also unique. And this is what I learned. Like when I studied a dozen different meditation traditions. Done Buddhist meditation, tantric meditation, different kinds of yogic meditation, kundalini, like astral travel, like branded meditations, mantra meditation, this kind of trademarked meditation that costs $6,000 to learn. Some meditation from some random dude who's like living in a village somewhere in the Himalayas. And what I learned is that not all meditations work for all people. So how long does it take? I'd say give it a shot. I'd say give it like a month or two. But if meditation is not working for you, the right thing to do is to ask someone for help, like especially a teacher. And if the teacher can't help you, that's not a problem for you, that's a problem for the teacher. Does that make sense? Do you think meditation is a hidden gem? I don't think it's hidden. How about rubbing the abdomen meditation? Yeah, we've taught that on stream before. Pretty sure. Right? Manipura Chakra meditations. Yeah, Chris Tower is saying, when I meditate, I focus on something in the mind. So, Chris, what is the object of your meditation? What is the thing that you're focusing on? Can you describe it? His waifu. GG, get wrecked. Okay, yeah. So this is what's cool. So what you could be focusing on is you're probably focusing on, in the quote quote, the right thing. So what the yogis realize is they have this term called neti neti to describe what it is that is the goal of focusing in meditation. And neti is a Sanskrit word for not this. So it's not this, not this. That's what you're focusing on. And why do they use the phrase not this, not this? It's because you can't describe it with words. It is that which is undescribable but experienceable. Does that make sense? Because there are all kinds of things that we can describe, but there are things that we can't describe. And what you actually discover if you dig into this is the easier it is to describe, the further away from the truth it actually becomes. So a good example of this is like love. It's like you can describe love, but like two people who understand it can use few words to describe it. For people who haven't experienced it or don't know what it's like, you can write a whole book and it won't really work. Right? So what they sort of discovered is that there is something in the mind, and there are things in the mind that have some kind of quality that can be described, like a thought or an emotion. So those are both descriptors that people can understand, which means that it's not neti neti. So there's something in the mind or in the self beyond thought and emotion. Is meditation recommended when tired? If you're trying to do a meditation to boost your energy, absolutely. Isn't the struggle to describe that which is undescribable kind of the point of art? Sort of. Right? So I think art captures experience in a way that description does not. That's what I would say. When is the best time to meditate? Dawn and dusk. But seriously, all these questions, so we're going to have to wrap up for today, but if you guys, like, all these questions are in the guide. That's why we made it. And the problem is if I answer these questions now, like, next week, no one, people may not have been around. So if y'all really want, like, a comprehensive approach, check out the meditation guide. I think even if y'all click so just click the Stream Elements link. And who are we rating today? Do we have mods around? Because I can't raid anymore. I can't raid things. Anyone? I am here. I don't know who you are, but I'm glad you're here. Can we raid somebody? Who do we want to raid, chat? Thanks for the sub. Courage always. Have fun with YouTube. Avik Fet. You're very welcome, Chris. I think we want to do more with meditation, but I wonder if like actually more community is the level that we need to do more in-depth stuff with meditation. We can raid Moist. Zentrea, whoever. Just pick someone. Seth Drums, whatever. If Prime is streaming, let's raid. Okay, we're raiding Moist. That's fine. Okay, y'all. Take care, everybody. Great to see y'all. We'll see y'all next week. We're still going to have uploads on our YouTube because we'll do things like edit them instead of Dr. K's stream of consciousness so that you don't have to listen to me ramble for 45 minutes.